Yo everyone, welcome back to the channel. We have another monthly game review roundup for you where I review old, new, random games that I've played and completed for the first time now. I'm doing this one at my desk rather than at the green screen like on my normal ones recently because frankly I'm in a big rush. It's the 14th as of recording this. It's going to be a few days after that when you guys see this probably. But on the 20th I'm flying to Gamescom with work with Cathedral Studios. If you weren't aware, I'm the head of community over at Cathedral Studios, working on a game called The Bournless, which we will be exhibiting at a booth at Gamescom. I will put the hall and the booth location on the screen. If you're going to be at Gamescom, come check us out. That would be really sick. If you're not aware of what this is a series where I am basically going through my gaming backlog as fast as I can, seeing how many games I can get through this year, and I'm keeping track of that on a spreadsheet that you can find in the link down below, and I'm utilizing the Steam Deck that I got for Christmas just gone to see how many games I complete. Anyway, we have a couple of short games to cover before we get on to the real meat of this one, so let's just get right into it. Firewatch is an adventure game developed by a studio named Campo Santo and was released in 2016. It's a story-driven adventure game where you play as a character called Harry, a person who's fled to the Shoshone National Forest and becomes a fire lookout to avoid problems in his personal life. And his only connection out here is his supervisor, Delilah, who is on the other end of a radio. While you're out there, you become aware of unseen forces in the forest, and you must unravel a years-old mystery. I wasn't sure what to think of this game when first finishing it, as the ending is famously, shall we say, different than most games from a storytelling perspective. And it really subverts the storytelling expectations in a way that video games have been kind of scared to do in the past. This is another game where I can't really give any details about it because literally any detail other than what I've already said would kind of spoil it. It's not long. It's not a game that takes any skill to play. It's literally just a bit of storytelling basically. You just walk around and press buttons sometimes. Like there's no puzzles or anything to solve. And it can run easily on many systems. I played it on my Steam Deck and a little bit on my PC, but mostly on my Steam Deck. The art style, beautiful. The music and the sound design, also beautiful. And the voice acting that's on display, especially from the Delilah character that you get on the radio, is fantastic. Trust me and everybody else who has played this, if you haven't, play it. Before we get on to the next game, please consider subscribing to the channel and following me on Twitch. I put out videos here on YouTube at least once a month, and I try and do it more often than that, and I stream on Twitch at least once a week, always on Wednesdays. I would really appreciate it if you check me out, and you can see a lot of the games that I review in this series on Twitch. Currently, I'm playing through Elden Ring. It's been an absolute fucking nightmare. You probably want to see it. Anyway, back to the video. Grow Home is a climbing exploration game released way back in 2015 by a small Ubisoft studio called Reflections. You play as a little robot named Bud, who needs to climb up a plant and make it grow in order to reach back up to your spaceship that you just fell out of onto this planet. It's quite fun. It's quite short. I only played it for about an hour and a half, but it is pretty good. They did make a sequel in 2016 called Grow Up, but I don't know if I'm going to be giving that a go. I'm certainly not going to be prioritizing that over other games in this series. The game was just about the right length, in that if it was any longer, I don't know if I would have finished it. I think this game wants you to take your time and explore while you're making the climb, because as you go up, as you make the plant grow more, it gets to like different locations and there's like floating islands and stuff. But what ends up happening is that I didn't really feel any need to do it. It felt like part of the game was maybe missing because of that. There were collectibles and stuff, but it didn't really feel like I had a reason to get them. Like, those collectibles didn't feel like they really helped me in achieving the goal of getting back to my spaceship easier. Maybe they changed that in the second one, which I hope they did, because I think that's what is missing. But if it's on sale and you're looking for something quick to play, then give it a go. It is a bit of fun. I would probably say just get Grow Up instead of Grow Home. It just on the off chance that they improved things in that one. But yeah, if it's cheap and you're looking for something short to play, then give it a go. Okay, here we are. This is the real meat and potatoes of this one. Hades 2 is a sequel to Hades and was released in early access in May of 2024. You play as the daughter of Hades and younger sister to the first game's protagonist Melinoe, who is trying to descend into hell, the opposite of the original game's goal, in order to kill your grandfather, Kronos, the Titan of Time, as he has returned from banishment and taken control of the House of Hades. The game takes the same art style from the previous game, which is to say it is fucking gorgeous. The sound design, just like the last game, is also amazing. The sounds are crisp and they clearly communicate what is going on, even when there are tons of enemies firing loads of different kinds of attacks, and the music on display is fantastic too, especially for the second area boss, which is music related. If you've played, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I clearly like this game. Hades quickly became one of my favourite games, and it was one of the first games that I actually played in this series in January, and this is just more of that. So, of course I like it. However, there is a lot of new stuff going on in this one. It's not just a carbon copy with new areas and stuff. First off, just like in the last game, you gather resources in each escape attempt, or in this case, attack attempt. We're just going to go with attempt for the rest of this video. You gather resources in each attempt to bring back to your base area and get upgrades. The game turns that system up to 11. There are tons of different kinds of resources now. Like if you were getting maybe like 5 different kinds of resources in the first one, there's like 30 plus in this game, it feels like. There are different ways to gather these resources as well, as there are now mining spots, plants, stuff like that in the locations. There are resources that you have to make using other resources, and resources can be used for different things, rather than resources having a single purpose. So it's basically deepening the complexity of the resource system, and that concept of the complexity getting deeper extends to many aspects of this game. For example, the basic combat mechanics are quite changed now. Obviously all the weapons are different, you still get 5, but they are all different. You still have the basic attack, special and cast attack options, but now you have omega versions of these attacks that if you hold down their respective button, it does a different thing. These omega versions of actions use another resource on your character, mana, which, similar to your health, can have its base number increased with character upgrades or with location rewards during an attempt, similar to your health and the centaur hearts. The dash button even gets a new function. You obviously still can dash, but now if you hold down the dash button, you can sprint. And there are boons that increase the power of these omega actions or even change what they do completely. You can also get boons that add abilities to sprint now as well. So again, the depth of the boon choices has now completely changed. Speaking of which, boons, there are tons of new boons and upgrades to get during an attempt. There are new gods that you can get boons from, like Apollo and Hephaestus. Boons now have elements tied to them as well, like water, fire, earth, etc. And some boons and upgrades gain power based on how many boons you have of a certain element. There are also duo boons now. So there are particular combinations of gods that if you have boons from one of them and you get a boon from another, you get a chance of having an option of picking a powerful duo boon, which boosts the effects of both boons and maybe gives a new effect or something like that. Oh, and how did I forget, there is a completely different kind of attempt you can have now. Rather than trying to go down into hell to fight Kronos, you can attempt to go up and make your way across the surface to Mount Olympus to speak to the gods. That is not complete yet in early access, as far as I understand, but it's super cool to have a completely different thing to do rather than just attempt the same locations repeatedly. As you can see, much more complexity across the board, but there is an important question to ask with all of this. Does this game match up to the original? Is this a worthy sequel, and is it better or worse? Before answering that, I think it's important to specify that this game is still in early access. I didn't play Hades in early access, I played it quite late. But I have heard that the game can change quite heavily as it goes through early access, so a lot of what I'm about to say is subject to change, and I 100% expect them to improve on everything in the game. Does this game match up to the previous game? Yes, it does. It's a lot of fun, it's more of the same, but with extra stuff added in, so it's a lot of fun. Is it better? No. At the moment, there are a few balancing things that need sorting out. One example of this is that there is a very clear best weapon to use. I was struggling with completing the final boss by like quite a wide margin, like barely getting to the second phase. But when I switched to this weapon and got 1 or 2 particular upgrades and boons that I was looking for, I was suddenly able to breeze through easy because it was so powerful. Another thing is that with the new level of complexity and all these new systems, sometimes it means that it feels like a lot to engage with and a lot to keep track of. Some people like that and a lot of it works. But I do think it needs a little bit of tweaking, and the rate at which you gather resources and maybe a bit better player leading in how and where to get the resources, and also there was instances where things were locked behind other upgrades and I simply didn't know that. So maybe designing a bit of communication so that I know that I should be getting an upgrade in order to like open the doors to more stuff. That would be nice because it's often a bit buried amongst all of the other options that you have to do. Now, don't get it twisted. Hades 1 was a 10 out of 10 game for me, and this game is like 8.5, 9, 9.5 out of 10. So I still recommend you play this game 100%, especially if you enjoyed the first one. I'll be watching closely for every update they put out because everybody that knows Hades knows that beating the final boss is not the end of the game. And even more so than the first one, there's a whole Surface and Mount Olympus storyline I need to complete when that's out as well. So there's a lot to do. There's a lot of replayability here. I will be keeping this installed and will be replaying it whenever I want to pick something up for 10 minutes on my Steam Deck. So yeah, massive recommendation. What I would say is if you haven't played the first one, I'd maybe pick that up first, just because you can play that in its complete state and, you know, get a bunch of mileage out of playing that, and it's really good anyway. And you probably should play that first if you haven't before going to this one, so that you like get the story a bit more. And by the time you've finished playing that a couple times, you can, this game might be in full release rather than early access with everything fixed and everything released, so you might as well. But yeah, big recommend, great game. Especially for being in early access, like it's remarkable the kind of work they put in. And that's all the games for this month. Again, we are doing 2 months in one because there is a massive game that I'm getting through right now, which is Elden Ring. You can follow me on Twitch and watch me play that live. I have no idea how far through I am. It's probably going to take me another month maybe to finish it, so we'll see if it ends up being in the next video. Honestly, I think I might do Elden Ring as a video on its own because there's so much to talk about with it that it will probably end up being its own video. I have a lot of thoughts on Elden Ring. But yeah, get subscribed to the YouTube channel to check out that video when it comes out, and follow me on Twitch if you want to watch me play it live. I have a death counter on that keeps track of my deaths in the game live, and there's a lot. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one. Leave a like on the video if you like it. Comment down below if there's any games that you want me to try out, especially if they're already in the spreadsheet below and you just want me to like play that one next, and I will do so. And other than that, have a nice day.